I just wanted to make a short video. I received a file from someone. When I had a look at what was made, basically showed a lot of problems, and most of them are sort of like common problems. So Blender Guru did a talk at the Blender Conference 2024 recently. It's about how the Blender user interface is not really very good in giving people feedback on what problems usually occur when you're modeling in Blender. And basically in this file, 3 of the 4 are present. So inverted normals, duplicated vertices, and overlapping faces. So let's have a look at the first one. It's not such a big problem, but it might become a problem later on. So it's just good practice to sort of fix this or check at least for yourself if that is wrong in your model. The way you can check it is to go here, put face orientation on, and now you can see that this is red. But it's just a good idea to do what I did basically, because now you can see this model has its normals flipped. And it's basically the red shows that that's the case. If you look inside, you can see that it's just the regular color of the mesh. What it means is that, let's say you have a new plane, Blender needs to know which side of this face is up and which is down, and it does so by means of normals. If you go here and you put it on. So here, face normals, you can adjust the size if you want. You can see this little blue line, right? And it shows that this is Blender's, and not even Blender, like every 3D program will use it, but it will say, okay, it's an indication for Blender to know that this face is pointing upwards, or this side is pointing upwards, and this side is down, outside and inside. The way I like to model is by having this option on by default, but if you have it on by default, it more or less looks like this, which is not very practical. So what I do is I go to Edit, Preferences, Themes, then in 3D Viewport, you can select, so not this one, but this one. As you can see, there's 2 options. If you click this one and I lower the alpha, I can see the original color underneath, and just a light red hue to indicate that this is the backside basically. And now blue, I don't need blue, so I put blue all the way back. But now if I save this, now I always have an indication of if the face is pointing outwards or inwards. Like for example, here you can see all this is pointing inwards, and that's obviously not the case because it should be the other way around. So first, I would advise you to and do what I did in the viewports, so you can see. And then, if you have the same problem, what you can do to fix it is to select everything, go into edit mode, press Alt-N, and recalculate the outside. As you can see, now everything's correct. So the inside is inside and this is all pointing out. Okay, that was the first one. The second one is, it's not really a problem we're gonna run into in our modeling process, or like in the models that we're gonna make, because we're not using subdivision. But in this case, the person was running into the fact that it's making loops, and at some point, I think it was here. Yeah, you can see it here. Like I cannot select this loop cut, and it's like hard to see why. But that is because if you shouldn't model with subdivision on, or you can model with subdivision on, but if you do, make sure that you put this option off, because now we can see that this edge actually in the original, like subdivision is a modifier and it adjusts just the look of the mesh unless you apply it. It sort of shows us the mesh, how the mesh would look when the subdivision modifier is applied. But what we want is we want this. Like we want to have the effect of the subdivision modifier, which is this curve basically. But we still want to have the original topology of the mesh. And what we can see now is that so it's subdivided, so it shows that it is actually subdividing. But now if we want to add a loop cut, so that it shows again that we add one loop cut, but then it's subdividing again. So this gives you like a distorted view of what's actually going on. So if this is off, and now we can add a loop cut wherever we want. And for example, because with the subdivision modifier, the reason why we apply the subdivision modifier is because we want to have certain curvature in if we're making a photorealistic model, for example, then this edge, then this is not what we want in a photorealistic model. However, this is getting closer, or we want to have control over the bending of the edges, how much they are beveled. So that's why we put this off. We have the original mesh still visible, the cage of the original mesh, but we can control the amount of curvature that we have without distorting the view of the original mesh. Okay, another thing is overlapping faces. Oh no, let's go back, because in this case you can also see like this is also a product. What we see here, this is called Z fading. So Blender doesn't know which face is up and which face is down. And what is happening here is that basically you have the mesh goes down, and then it extrudes another part. So that was a double face, and here you can see we have another double face, and now it's correct. Now the curvature is off, but if we put the extra loop cut in with this option off, we have good control over the curvature. So that was overlapping faces. So we had inverted normals, we have overlapping faces, and now we will do duplicated vertices. This is kind of hard, but it's like something, if you're doing Blender for a longer time, you just occasionally check if you have duplicated vertices. Like in this case, you don't really see it. Now you also don't see it. But if you go into a vertex mode, select everything, pressing A and then M, and then we merge by distance, you can see down here that there were 16 vertices removed. So there was probably a line that was overlapping with another line. And this will cause problems later on. Really check your mesh if you have one of these problems. It's just you just do it now and again. Another one, the non-standard scale one, is also a very common problem, which I will show you quickly. So let's say we have a cube, and we have another cube, and this cube is stretched. And for example, we bevel this cube a little bit. You can see that the bevel is it's like proportionally correct. But if we go into this model and we do the same, we see these proportions are not kept, and that is because the scale is not uniform. And let's see if I can. What you do is I have it under my quick favorites here. So I apply rotation and scale. You can find it here. Object, apply, location, rotation and scale, and I put this under my quick favorites. So right mouse button, and then if you don't have it under your quick favorites, you can say add to quick favorites, and then you can access your quick favorites by pressing Q. So when I apply it now, you will see that the bevel is proportionate. Like the bevel is one example, but it's just something that you want to check occasionally if you run into problems. it's probably one of these. It's probably wise to check if it's one of these 4, and then troubleshoot further. Okay, this was quite a off-the-cuff video, but I hope it makes sense.